Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Comic Time podcast for August 21st, 2013. We got some awesome comics this week. My name is Aaron. I'll be your host. We have some great comics, including Batman 66, Superman Unchained issue number 3, Justice League Dark issue number 23, Superior Spider-Man issue number 16. So we really have a nice show right now. If you want to see a specific comic book review in this video, click the comic book cover of the comic that you want to see, and I hope you enjoy the show. Our first comic book is Batman 66 issue number 2. This is the print version of the digital first comic that is out on the, for digital download on, DC, iPad app and what have you. The comic opens up with, Commissioner Gordon essentially at like this giant iceberg that's in the middle of the harbor, and of course, guess who's behind it? The Penguin. So we finally catch up to Batman and Robin. They arrive on the scene. Batman climbs all the way up to the iceberg, starts beating up Penguin's, henchmen. Penguin explains his plan that he's going to basically block traffic in order to kind of, tax anyone who wants to get their shipments into Gotham. Batman tries to stop Penguin, but he is thwarted by none other than the one and only Mr. Freeze. So now we have a kind of a double team situation with Mr. Freeze and the Penguin working side by side to working on this plan. And their dynamics are really funny. And I like how Mr. Freeze is always like, "What are you doing here?" Und like that kind of really heavy German accent, like he's like, "You this not you, Batman," like stuff like that, which is hilarious when you're reading it. But yeah, Penguin is essentially charging people for passage into this shipment yard. Batman gets encased in sort of like this icy prison, so he calls Robin. Robin gets to the bat sub. Robin, I don't even understand how this is how ridiculous this series is. Robin freezes the iceberg underneath because it's being held by one of Penguin's subships or submarines. He basically melts it from underneath the iceberg. So he cuts off the support lines that's holding it down, and then he melts it. So, of course, Mr. Freeze and Penguin make their daring escape. Batman and Robin chase after him. Unfortunately, they can't make it, but the iceberg is dismantled, and of course, everyone saved the day. Batman actually, in this instance, really kind of puts the whole, not really blame, but he gives a lot of credit to Robin because he did a lot of stuff in this. But I really enjoyed that part of the comic. It's the Emperor Penguin storyline. I thought it was funny, especially the dialogue. Jeff Park is doing a really good job at doing dialogue. It definitely feels like we're in the realm of the classic TV show, and everything works really well. The art's pretty solid. Ty Templeton doing a good job. I still love Jonathan Case for what he did in the first print issue, but with the last story that we have, Jonathan Case comes back for this one chapter kind of self-contained story, and we're going to get to that. So the last part of this issue is a really fun kind of self-contained story where Bruce Wayne goes to a nightclub with his date, and there's this woman that's singing, and when she sings, every single man becomes under her command. So what she basically tells all the men to do is to rob their wives of their jewelry and put it in a bag. Just before it, she calls her song "Give Me All of Your Valuables," which really, when you think of that, I think as like a smart individual, you think like, oh, I think something's gonna happen. I think maybe we should get the fuck out of here. But wait, this really funny scene where all of these husbands are like stealing their wives' like pearl necklaces and like jewelry. Batman escapes, puts on the bat suit, breaks through. He begins to kind of confront the siren. Her name's Lori. So Lori's there, and he's like, "You don't have any henchmen. What are you gonna do now?" And she's like, "I don't need henchmen. I got all these guys." So all these civilians start punching Batman, and Batman basically takes most of them down. But she's not getting any money, so all the other remaining henchmen go to loot from their wives. Lori uses some like weird spray. She like ingests it from like a perfume case, and then she sings to Batman, and then he goes into this like weird psychedelic kind of dream phase where reality isn't what it is, and like Robin's this giant bird, and Chief O'Malley's like this little leprechaun, and it's hilarious. Will Batman be able to get out of this crazy reality that he's been put in? Who's gonna help him? You're just gonna have to read to find out. You need to read. Honestly, if I were to recommend this issue, I would base it solely on this chapter of the book. This is a digital book. I think this was chapter 6. You can definitely get it on digital download. But just read this issue, and solely alone, it's one of the best I've seen out of Batman 66 so far. Jonathan Case comes back, and he does the art and the colors. They're all beautiful, really well done. It fits the tone perfectly, especially when he's like in that kind of like weird psychedelic dimension. It's so good. I had such a fun time reading this. Overall, Batman 66 issue number 2 had the Penguin story and the Lori Siren story. Both I would give the Emperor Penguin storyline a 4 out of 5, but I would give the Siren literally a 5 out of 5, bringing the overall score to a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely pick up Batman 66. It's a fun Batman book, and it's really different from all the other Batman books that are out there. And it's also unique coming from the television show over to comics. It really blends itself perfectly, and it's a must-read. And our next comic book is Superman Unchained, issue number 3. This continues Scott Snyder's run with Jim Lee on the newest Superman title. Let's see how they did. The comic opens in the Utah Desert during November 1938, which is interesting because 1938 was the year of the first appearance of Superman. So I think that's maybe some connections right there. But what happens is that there's actually a bunch of scientists and military there, and there's a huge kind of like almost like a UFO crashes into the Earth. So we'll get to that in a second. We cut back to now where Superman is in the Utah Salt Flats. Basically, Wraith has just revealed himself to Superman in front of General Lane just before he was about to get attacked with all those missiles. Superman is essentially wants answers. Of course, General Lane doesn't want to give it to him. He starts smashing up some of the machines. The Wraith kind of, holds him down. He kicks him all the way from like one point of the salt fields or the salt flats all the way to like a couple miles away. And there's this really cool art by Jim Lee of just you see him grab Superman, kick him, and then we get a shot of a like satellite camera zooming in, and then we see like a map, and all we see is just this line that goes from one part of the screen to the other, and it's just really epic. And then we see Superman, zooming across the screen. So now that Superman is alone with Wraith, essentially Wraith says, we can stop fighting, we're not in front of the general, and Superman wants answers. Meanwhile, in Nova Scotia, Lois Lane is still in the helicopter that has now been disabled by Ascension. She's going down. She has a really smart idea. There's a bunch of conveyor belts, not conveyor belts, like energy lines that are near this kind of cliff. So her idea is we hit the lines, the power goes down, they send a team to go and fix that, and then the team will find us, essentially. So will she make it out of the crash? Will her plan be successful? I'm definitely not going to reveal that to you. The next page is, basically the Wraith's kind of origin story. His sort of landing kind of mirrors, Superman's own landing. He came in kind of like this pod, and he was found by the government. Superman wasn't found by the government, of course. But Superman goes to the Wraith's hideout, or his home, essentially. And that's when General Lane starts, giving him answers, that, he was essentially a product of the U.S. government. He used to help the troops back in, ever since, I think, maybe the First World War. I think even ever since 1938. But all the way up to the day, he's been assisting, U.S. troops and, U.S. government. And General Lane tells Superman that he finds him kind of a disappointment because, he thought he was going to turn out like Wraith, another soldier for the U.S. government to, essentially recruit. And, of course, there's a, huge, basically Ascension comes up on a screen. There's a huge attack, and I think it's Tokyo. Ascension is attacking Tokyo. So Wraith and Superman spring into action. They go to Tokyo. Meanwhile, Metropolis in the Maw prison, Lex Luthor is breaking out. I like how it goes back to Lex Luthor. It's a good thing that we're still keeping those storylines up, and it goes back to Wonder Woman. I'm not going to tell you that because you need to figure it out yourself. But I will tell you one thing about how Wonder Woman, how Lois Lane's kind of separate storyline ends. It ends very interestingly. Definitely not what I expected. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens next. And of course, Wraith and Superman enter to Tokyo, and they essentially that's where the comic ends. Next issue is gonna be them defending Tokyo from Ascension. They've taken over these new XR-18 drones, so they're doing that. And of course, the backup by Dustin Nguyen, still being written by Scott Snyder. All great. I feel like they should have Dustin Nguyen should have more pages. He only gets like 2 pages for the backup story, which kind of pisses me off because he's a really good artist and they should utilize him more. I keep on saying this for every single issue I do, but I think I'm just gonna have to accept it. But still, the backup was good. It definitely seems like they gave Lex Luthor more screen time, or time in the book, so that's great. I really like this issue, actually. Yeah, everything is still solid. I'm gonna give this issue a 5 out of 5. I'm really enjoying this new Superman title. I think they have the right people working on it. Scott Snyder with his awesome, amazing storytelling, dialogue. Obviously, I like how he does the history of this new character, Wraith. How he's been there from 1938, and how he's kind of like a government sanctioned Superman, if you will. And of course, Jim Lee, fantastic artist. He is one of my favorite artists, and he definitely puts his all in this title. Also, quick note: does Wraith kind of look like New 52 Reverse Flash? It kind of looks similar. Leave in the comments and let me know if you see little similarities. But I think so. I think there's a lot of similarities, especially the kind of aura of lightning and the kind of texture of the character. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Our next comic book is Batman Beyond Universe, issue number 1. This is a compilation of 2 digital DC books, which is Justice League Beyond 2.0 and Batman Beyond 2.0. Both of these are the first chapter. Let's start with Batman Beyond 2.0. This is kind of their relaunching of the Batman Beyond universe. They had their 10,000 Clowns series back then, but now this is a year after that, and we catch up with Terry McGinnis. What is he doing since a year since of that? Well, the mayor's built a new institution, the Arkham Institution. He's upgraded that, put all the villains in there. Everything's seems the same except for one key thing at the very end, which I will not spoil. But honestly, this is a setup comic. It's just telling you what's happening in Terry McGinnis's universe and where people are at. Commissioner Barbara Gordon, she's still commissioner. Formerly Batgirl, so she's working alongside with Terry McGinnis as Batman. I think one of the main drawing plot points is that the mayor kind of gets, in a way, assassinated. He's kind of drugged, and then he's foaming out the mouth, and he dies in the Arkham Institution. So she recruits Terry McGinnis to figure that out, and the comic ends on a really big kind of almost like oh shit moment. So definitely check it out for that. You can also pick it up digitally, but I really enjoyed what Kyle Higgins is doing with the new Batman Beyond so far from the first issue. And the other part of Batman Beyond Universe, issue number 1, is Justice League Beyond 2.0. So this is, of course, relaunch of Justice League Beyond, and this really deals with the fact that Superman, for some inexplicable reason, his powers are just super, like he has some sort of super boost. So like he's unable to control some of his powers sometimes. Like he'll be trying to help, and like his heat vision comes on, and then it's just bursting out, and he doesn't know what's happening. So the whole team comes together to figure out what's happening with him. Apparently, there's something happening with the sun that's amplifying its powers, altering. There's some sort of like UFO that's altering the sun's rays, therefore affecting Superman. So every single team member tries to help Superman, including, Green Lantern tries meditation. The Flash and Superman go for a run. Kind of just like, I guess, burn off the energy. The whole team really chimes in and tries to see what's wrong with Superman. And of course, this ending is it's actually very shocking at the very end. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do for the next issue. I actually enjoyed both of these, first chapters of these new, comic series. I do recommend you pick them up digitally because they come out every Saturday, alternating between Batman Beyond 2.0 and Justice League Beyond 2.0. So it's alternate Saturdays and like a bi-weekly kind of thing. So definitely check that out. Or you can just pick this up in print. It's both viable, but of course I prefer the digital comic kind of model of coming out weekly than having to wait for the print. But choose as you will. Batman Beyond Universe issue number 1 gets a 4.5 out of 5. Both of these comics are really fun and definitely interesting kind of relaunches of older series. Well, not really older, but newer series. And I do feel that writer Kyle Higgins and Christo, Gage are doing a good job with these the Beyond titles, and they're in good hands. I enjoyed it this week. Definitely pick this up. Our next comic is Trinity of Sin, Pandora, issue number 3. This is the last tie-in for the Trinity War. So let's see how it did. The comic opens with Pandora at Mount Song in the 1300s, talking to her master about what is evil and what is the result of evil, and how can she basically conquer evil. And it all fits in with the theme of where she is right now. And we cut back to the U.S. military-run prison designed to hold Lex Luthor, and these are the events of Justice League Dark issue number 23. Pandora is essentially trying to deal with all the heroes kind of trying to obtain the Pandora's box. And what people aren't seeing, because Pandora is a unique individual, is that she can actually see the 7 deadly sins hover over our heroes. Everyone from sloth, wrath, pride, gluttony, all that. They're controlling all the heroes, making them fight each other. And the comic kind of goes back and forth between Pandora's like training with her masters, and how it reflects on what's happening right now. Like, how does she destroy evil when she can't even touch it? But ultimately, she does triumph over the evil. But even more, back in Baltimore, Marcus is kind of, I guess, being questioned by Argus and Slade. So they're essentially, it's actually Shade. Excuse me, but so ultimately she struggles with that. We get more kind of scenes with her with different individual like masters she's learned from, in her past. She is immortal, so she has a lot of senseis, if you will. But also one important thing is back in Baltimore, the both agents from Shade and Argus are interrogating. Not really interrogating. They're questioning Mark about his association with Pandora, and they ultimately figure out that he is supplying guns to her, and they're trying to figure out where she is. The comic ends on a kind of high note. I definitely am not going to tell you because that would be in spoiler territory, but I think I can talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. Let's talk about what I liked. I really like the scenes when they went back to Pandora's training. It's really well written, and it pertains to what's actually happening in the present. It fits very well with the theme that they're trying to get across. But the art is pretty good. It's definitely decent enough for this series. Now I want to get into the bad. Two major plot holes. I think that reading Justice League Dark issue number 23 has kind of ruined it a little bit for me. Kind of like continuity-wise, two things happen in this comic, which I'm going to explain. So one of the things being one element that kind of contradicts what the Justice League Dark, actual Part 5 of the Trinity War, what it was doing. In that comic, Satana isn't affected by the 7 deadly sins, but in this comic book, she's being affected by envy. You can see envy hover over her, and he's kind of controlling her actions. In Justice League Dark, that doesn't happen. She's actually fighting against everyone else because at one point she's holding Pandora's box, and she's completely unaffected. So it kind of contradicts itself. And when agents from Shade and Argus are talking to Marcus, they hold up like kind of this tablet that has an image of Pandora. Basically, the exact same scene that's at the U.S. prison where, Lex Luthor's being held. And they ask Marcus, where is she? Are you fucking serious? We can obviously tell that this is the exact same thing. Fucking the corrupted version of Shazam is literally in the frame. And, where did that picture come from? It obviously came from the fucking prison. So what the hell? How do you not know where Pandora is when you have basically live feed from where she is right now? I'm going to give Trinity of Sin, Pandora, issue number 3, a 2.5 out of 5. I really wanted to like this issue a lot, but it really brought the score down with those two plot points, and it's just kind of disappointing being the last tie-in for the Trinity War. But I still will read Trinity of Sin, Pandora, even post Trinity War. Our next comic book is Justice League Dark, issue number 23. This is part 5 of the Trinity War, and the comic starts off with Madame Xanadu talking about how she foresaw all of these events happening, and that the real battle, the final battle, is just about to begin. And we pick up from when we saw last issue with Wonder Woman being corrupted by, the Pandora's box. And essentially, there's two things that happen throughout the duration of this comic. It seems everyone is getting corrupted by the box. First, it's Wonder Woman, and then it's Billy Bats and Shazam. For some strange reason, his costume goes to a black, sort of like a Black Adam. It looks sort of like the Black Adam costume. But besides, changing his costume, he sends kind of a shockwave to all these magical characters in the DC universe, especially even people in the Earth 2 comic. Dr. Fate in one of the scenes is grabbing his helmet. But we get back to Batman's team. They're trying to figure out what's happening. We go back to Argus headquarters. The team has survived. It seems, Element Woman encased them all in metal. They're fine. They're talking to Amanda Waller. They're trying to find out whether or not she's behind this and what they're going to do with her. Also, they need to save people at Argus. We get back. Zatanna and Pandora are fighting off basically all the heroes, playing sort of like a game of hot potato with, Pandora's box. Constantine shows up. Constantine, Zatanna, GTFO, get the fuck out of there. And they end up at some really nice Greek ruins near some temples. John Constantine wanted to go to London, but, you don't always get what you want. So, fortunately, they actually stumble upon Madame Xanadu, who's actually under one of the ruins. And that's when Batman's team shows up. They release Madame Xanadu from the chair. And that's when the Outsider comes out and reveals, what the box is really about. But I won't tell you. Definitely go read the comic. Gets a 3.5 out of 5. It was definitely a solid issue. Good art, good battle scenes. I honestly feel like this issue is just like, okay, we need to just move this along until we get to the finale. So, I still really enjoyed it. Definitely pick it up. Our next comic book is X-Men issue number 4. Of course, this is Brian Wood that is writing this comic, and it's the all-female cast. But we do have a kind of strong male in this issue in the form of Logan Wolverine. He's kind of hanging out with, Jubilee, and they're off in Southern California, just, relaxing. Jubilee just basically has a child now, so they went out to, the mall, regaling thoughts of, where they first met and how she was attacked by Sentinels in the mall and, all that cool, backstory stuff. And, of course, some character moments, like she goes to the older house, her house when she was growing up, and now it's rebuilt in Beverly Hills, and really a lot of emotions there. And it's a fun time when we're with Logan and Jubilee and Shoujo, her child. But parallel to that, the X-Men are full cast of women X-Men, excluding Jubilee because, she is in fact, with Logan. They are dealing with a flight crash that's happening. So they're in the X-Wing, and they're trying to save this, a commercial air flight that's crashing into the mountains. So there's a really nice action scene that happens there. I'm glad it wasn't just like this kind of toned down, it's just Wolverine and Jubilee at the mall, and man, you're a woman now, aren't you, Jubilee? And she's like, oh please. I'm glad we have some of the issues that are being talked about in issue number 3, Rachel Gray is discussing about karma and how we almost killed her last issue, and there's a lot of kind of struggles in the ranks between Storm and Rachel Gray, and there's a whole chat about morality and all that. And also you co-opt that with the tension of the plane crashing, and Psylocke, Rogue, and Kitty Pryde, and how are they going to stop this plane from crashing. I actually really enjoyed this issue. The one thing I will say that I do like, of course, writing. Brian Wood keeps all the female characters, strong roles, good dialogue. Definitely enjoy all the characterizations, and there's good kind of dialogue and conflict that happens. Even when there's this. Overall, this issue is kind of a filler issue because the huge X-Men Battle of the Atom storyline that's coming up, which I do understand. But this is very kind of tame, which I liked. One thing I didn't like, but still I prefer Olivier Coipel's art from the previous 3 issues to David Lopez's art. Just because he drew the women better in this. But still, this is filler for, Battle of the Atom, and I understand they're probably saving him for issue number 5. I actually have the X-Men Battle of the Atom card right here that I got from the comic store. But overall, I still had a really good time with X-Men issue number 3. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. It's always nice to just take a step back and have a breather. And this is obviously going to be the calm before the storm situation that's happening right now. Our next comic book is The Superior Spider-Man issue number 16. The last issue had Spider-Man basically revealing, Phil Urich's identity as a hobgoblin. So we cut back to the Daily Bugle, and everyone's kind of freaking out. Robertson says if anyone tweets, Facebook's post any status update to social media, that they will get fired. We don't know if Phil is, and if he is or is not, Hobgoblin. And Spider-Man's on the TV saying, we need to catch this guy, and everyone in the Daily Planet, even Phil's girlfriend is freaking out. She's questioning his kind of motives, whether or not he is Hobgoblin. And Spider-Man is en route to Phil into the Daily Planet because his spider tracers were able to pinpoint his location, and he got some help from the public. And then he basically goes into Daily Planet, goes up to Robertson. Robertson's kind of pissed off, saying, "You have no right calling out Phil like that. We don't even know if he's Hobgoblin. How can we trust you?" And Spider-Man says that he talks about the nano spider tracers that are inside. He injected into Hobgoblin, and it brought him to this location, which is now pinpointing him to Phil. Phil just freaks out, takes out the flaming sword, and undoubtedly everyone knows that he's Hobgoblin. After flaming sword, there's no going back. A whole bunch of different news outlets go crazy with all the rumors, saying Phil Urich is essentially the Hobgoblin. A whole bunch of different news outlets are doing that. Meanwhile, in Midtown, it seems that the Wraith is doing some investigation on Spider-Man because she doesn't believe that Peter is himself, and they're trying to check out where he gets all his money from. How's he pay for giant ass spider robots and armies of just spider minions, spiderlings, I believe. So she's getting dangerously close to figuring out whether how Peter gets his money, or in this case how Otto Octavius gets his money. So they're very close to figuring out some secret. We cut back to the Daily Planet, and now it's time for just Spider-Man to just embarrass the shit out of Phil. Phil's going crazy. He's doing his Sonic Scream. He almost kills a lot of people in the Daily Planet, but Spider-Man leaps into action, breaks through the window of Daily Planet, and literally there's cops outside and civilians, and it's being live fed on TV, and Spider-Man just embarrasses the shit out of him, starts beating him up. He says "You're surrounded. There's cops everywhere. I got my men coming. You can't do shit." He gives up. It almost seems like Spider-Man is about to execute him, but Spider-Man gets a call from Captain America saying that he's still on probation, so he's kind of being watched by the Avengers. So literally what he does is says, "We're done here," grabs him by the leg, drags him through the streets, talks to the press, and sends Urich on basically to the police. They take him to maximum security prison. But of course, later on or earlier, Green Goblin is watching this, and he sends one of his menace to the actual the police car that's holding Urich, breaks him out, brings him back to the Green Goblin's cave, into which Green Goblin now appoints him the new kind of Goblin Knight, and he has this badass new suit, and it looks fucking sick. Art is great on that, But yeah, Green Goblin says, your life as Phil is dead, essentially. Now it's time to arise as, a Goblin Knight. And that's where the comic ends. I'm going to talk about what I liked about this comic. Everything. This is one of my favorite issues of Superior Spider-Man out of the whole run. One of my favorites. Really well done. Writing, really good. I liked everyone's reactions at the Bugle. This comic kind of has like an escalation of just tension. It's so tense. We get that tension from everyone in the Daily Bugle, and what is Spider-Man gonna do next, and how Phil reacts to everything. It's kind of this slow decay of Phil to Hobgoblin, and we see when he's talking to people, like he starts laughing, a little bit maniacal voice gets spilled in with the regular talk. So you see Hobgoblin slowly making his way up to the surface of Phil's, kind of mask, his bravado that he uses at the Daily Bugle, just his regular life. So I really enjoyed this. I forgot to talk about the art. Art, awesome art, really good. Definitely, and the layout too. Actually, the way the panels are laid out, really good too. But yeah, art definitely solid. Really enjoyed this. Superior Spider-Man gets a 4.5 out of 5. Really good. Definitely pick it up. Our next comic book is Dexter, issue number 2. This is a new comic book series from Marvel, based off the popular series of books. Let's see how they did. So the comic opens up with a monologue from Dexter saying how life can, how we think we're following the main plot, and all of a sudden, something from your past comes back to bite you in the ass. And that thing that came back to bite him in his ass is Steve Gonzalez. Steven runs a kind of, I guess, an addict, kind of rehab center for people who are addicted to, all sorts of things. Apparently, there's been a murder outside of his premises, and that's when Deb and Dexter find out that Arthur Bleak, the guy that was murdered near New Hope, was actually involved in the New Hope Foundation, and he was part of the system, their system. He was a client of theirs. We meet a new character called Mr. DeVoe, and DeVoe works for Gonzalez. He's kind of helping him with the company. Gonzalez says he doesn't know anything about the murder of Arthur Bleak, and of course, DeVoe doesn't know anything too. So Deb leave, and Dexter runs a background check on DeVoe. He finds out that DeVoe is in a paramilitary group in Hawaii called the Tauntauns. They're known for, murder, torture, kidnapping, and DeVoe is also known for, setting people on fire. That's kind of his specialty. So Dexter and Deb go back to the New Hope Foundation and basically tell, Gonzalez whether or not he knows that one of his workers does have this history. He does surprisingly know about it, and he says, the past is the past, and he's willing to move on. As Dexter and Deb are leaving on the highway, they get ambushed, essentially, by a mysterious figure on a motorcycle who throws a Molotov cocktail at their car. Will Deb and Dex survive? And if they do they think it's DeVoe? And is it really DeVoe? Or is it someone completely different? Let's talk about what I liked. Writing, yes. Writing's really good. Of course, this is from the author of the books, so you definitely know that he has a grasp on the characters and characterization and how to actually, write. He's been doing Dexter for, I think, maybe 8 books now, but don't quote me on that because I personally haven't read the books, but I do watch the TV show kind of religiously. Really big fan of the TV show, and I could see some similarities from the TV show in the comics, so that's nice to see. Plot is definitely starting to heat up. No pun intended with Molotov. But it definitely seems interesting. I want to know, what's going on with these two characters, Devoy and Gonzalez, whether or not they're involved, or even if their resort has some sort of sinister implications. I really like this issue. I'm gonna give Dexter issue number 2 a 3.5 out of 5. I think if you're a fan of the actual TV show or novel, you should definitely read this, especially if you're a comic book fan. You'll find some enjoyment in this. I enjoyed this. And also a plus, I thought the art was pretty good for the most part. And like I said, if you're a fan of the books, definitely pick this up. Whew, all right, so that's it for the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like the video if you did, dislike it if you didn't like it, and if you did dislike it, leave in the comments section basically some constructive criticism. It's always welcome. Any comment that you want to leave, just leave it down below. Any comics you want me to review, movies, etc. If you want to see the previous podcast, August 19th or August 14th, make sure to click the annotation on the screen. Follow me on Google+, follow me on Soundcloud for an audio version of this podcast, and also check out Rhymes with Geek, an awesome comic-themed podcast website with some great YouTubers and podcasters talking about comics each week. Definitely check all those links out. Thank you so much for watching.